This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect. Okay, so we've already done a current electricity, I think, a month ago. Maybe we had just an introduction, but this will be in detail. Okay, so I believe everybody might have understood when I've explained you, but again, I am quite sure that, most of you might have even left everything from your mind. So what do you mean by current electricity, guys? Can someone tell me? Turn on your mic and give me an answer.
Current is the rate of flow of charge.
Current is the rate of flow of charge. What is a charge? What do you mean by charge?
The type of energy which is gained by losing or taking electrons.
Okay. All right. Let us understand. So what exactly is current? Okay. So is there any difference between current? Is there any difference between current and electricity? So all these things, we'll look out in the current presentation. So let me brief out what we are going to learn in this presentation. Is we'll learn different types of electricity. We'll learn what exactly is the definition of current. What are the units of current? Along with this, we'll also check out all the symbolic forms, formulae related to current. Apart from this, we'll also learn some terminology such as resistance, potential difference, potential, Ohm's law, ohmic and non-ohmic conductors. We'll check out different types of resistances, if they're connected in series, if they're connected in parallel, what is the formula. After this, we'll also go through resistivity, specific resistance, conductivity, and then we'll solve certain kind of problems after this class. Okay, so let me move on to the second slide, which will give you a deeper information. Yes, so what is current and electricity? I think it is visible on your screen now. Yeah, so the word electricity refers to a set of phenomena associated with the presence or movement of electric charges. So if at all a charge is moving from point A to point B, which is undefined, or sometimes it is defined. Okay, so electricity is basically a set of phenomena. So it's basically a process, okay, associated with the presence or movement of electric charges. First thing, there has to be electric charge present, and second thing, this charge has to move. If it is not moving, then that is a different type of electricity. If it is moving, then that is different type of electricity. What are those two different types of electricity? We'll check it out in the next slide. But before that, all words starting with electr, such as electrons, electricity, electronics, they all come from elector, elector, meaning beaming sun, something, a source which is beaming energy. So beaming sun, it means that. Okay, in Greek, basically electron means amber. Okay, something which shines. Okay, all right. So current is the flow of electrons or charge across a given cross section of area. So as Nihal was telling me that current is basically the flow of charges from one point to other point. Yes, it is absolutely correct. So this is a slight bit of video now. So basically there are two types of electricities: static electricity, current electricity. I think this is visible on your screen now. Yeah. So static electricity. So under static electricity, electrons do not flow in predictable patterns. You do not have a cross-sectional wire. You do not have a conductor carrying these electrons in a specified path here. Okay. Whereas in current electricity, electrons flow through wires in predictable patterns. For example, if you are connecting a wire from point A to point B, then the electrons flow from that particular specified path from point A to point B. Then that is called as electricity, current electricity. Current, which something which flows. For example, we call ocean currents. Ocean currents are nothing but the waves, right? So which are dynamic in nature, which are not stagnated, which are not kept in a position. but instead they are moving from one place to another. If they're moving from one place to another, that means it is dynamic. It is called current. Okay, current electricity. Electrons are moving from one place to another. There is a movement of electrons in this. Whereas in static electricity, they do not flow in predictable patterns. They pile up, they build up energy all together, unpredictably, they move and they fire. We'll check out all the examples. Charges build up and jump under static electricity. Imagine you are wearing a new dress where and you're, let's say you're watching something on your laptop. Suddenly someone comes and touches you. What happens? Suddenly that person feels a shock, right? So this is nothing but static electricity. I think everybody might have undergone such kind of experience. Maybe suddenly you touch your friend and an electric shock jerks you, right? So that is because of static electricity. So charges are building up and it is jumping from one object to other object, one substance to another subject. So this is an static electricity. Coming back to current electricity, so they can be easily harnessed to do work and power modern technologies. Let's say, with this current electricity, you can charge up your mobile phones, you can charge up an electronic device, you can utilize and you can actually apply it on electronic or electrical devices. Whereas you cannot use this static electricity, because static electricity will be only useful once after it is piled up, and the static electricity basically moves in unspecified routes. Okay, so static electricity has limited uses to power modern technology. Static electricity is responsible for lightning and static link. So static link is nothing but basically the thundering kind of effect, and current electricity is basically responsible for most of the things in your life. We'll check out the examples. So there are lots of examples that I've given adjacent to this figure, as well as below the this kind of chart, right? So whatever the images that are being reflected just below the differentiating table are all coming under current electricity, because we use electric heater, we use electric room heater, electric iron, electric kettle, AC, air conditioning, everything, refrigerator, everything comes under current electricity. Whereas now comes the interesting things. Look at the adjacent, a person or a boy who is actually touching some substance, and suddenly right, and suddenly his hair is falling a pattern because of electricity. He feels shock all of a sudden. And in the second figure, you are watching a person touching the hinge of a door, and he's feeling shock. And third, as I've told you, if suddenly if someone touches their friend or someone who is just beside him or in front of him, that other person will feel shock. And sometimes in both of them, they feel shock because of the exchange of current, because current is piling up in the body and it is jumping from that person to the other. So this is nothing but static electricity. Current electricity examples I've given it below the column, and the static electricity examples I've given adjacent to the table. Any doubts so far? Any doubts? Shriyari, yes. Shriyari, yes. Your examples are correct. But yeah. Okay. All right. Any doubts, guys? Okay. Let us proceed further. Okay. We'll check what is the next slide. All right. Now let's talk about charge. What exactly is charge? Tushant has got a doubt here. Once explain static electricity. So basically, Tushant, what is static electricity? Static, that means something which is not moving. Electricity, charge. There is a charge, there is an energy which is not moving from one place. So it is at rest. So in that position itself, it is piling up, it is building the energy. Suddenly, once the energy is fulfilled, it is trying to move, it is trying to jump. So that kind of phenomena is called as static electricity. If electricity is flowing through a conductor through a specified pattern, then that is called as current electricity. So basically these two are the different types of electricities: static electricity, current electricity. Is this understood, Tushant? Fantastic. All right. Moving on to the charge. Charge is nothing but electric charge is a physical property of matter that causes it to experience a force when placed in an electromagnetic field. So forget about this definition. Charge is nothing but, see, basically when we have studied about magnetism. So we have studied about magnetic field, right? Magnetic field is something where we actually feel magnetism. If a body is kept in that particular magnetic field line, then magnetism can be felt. Similarly, charge is something which is carrying energy. When somebody touches it, they can feel it, right? So this is nothing but a physical property of a matter that causes it to experience a force. We are experiencing electricity because of the presence of charge. Okay, only when it is kept under electromagnetic field. So there are two types of electric charges, basically positive and negative charges. So like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other. So once we proceed further, we'll understand what are the different types of positive and negative charges as well. So coming back to the charge SI unit of charge is nothing but Coulomb. Coulomb is capital C. Other units are elementary charge, Faraday, ampere hour. So these are all the other units of charges. So common symbols are capital Q or small q. Okay, so this is one side. The important thing is yet to be discussed. The important thing here is the formula. So Q is nothing but the product of N into E. So N is nothing but number of electrons. E is nothing but charge on an electron. So charge of an electron, we already know that the value is minus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 Coulomb. So if you that's the reason, if since it is minus, we are having plus or minus symbol there. So Q is equals to plus or minus N into E. Remember this, it's a very important formula. This we are going to use it again in the electricity, current electricity formula as well. So N is nothing but the number of electrons, E is nothing but the charge of an electron. So 1 millicoulomb is equals to 10 power minus 3 coulombs. 1 microcoulomb is nothing but 10 power minus 6 coulombs, and 1 nanocoulomb is equals to 10 power minus 9 coulombs. So these are the subunits. Please make a note of these things. It is very important for you to have a running notes, because that will be really handy. When you're writing tests or when you're trying to revise some certain things, when you're trying to go through a particular topic and all of a sudden you're stuck with a doubt, you want to go back, you doesn't want to feel like read everything at that particular point. This kind of running notes will help you, because this is short, crispy, and as well as it'll be easily understandable, because it is you who are writing it. So you make sure that you're writing it in your own understandable format. Once it is done, let me know. I'll proceed further. Should I proceed further? Okay. All right. Moving ahead. Moving on to the next slide. Now we'll have to understand what are conductors and what are insulators. Everybody knows that there are certain substances which allow current to pass, certain substances which do not allow current to pass. Generally what happens, you are at home, and whenever you're touching an electrical appliance, or whenever you're dealing with operating an electronic device, what people suggest you to wear slippers, or to make sure that you're not in direct contact with the earth, right? Or sometimes people even use a stick to operate the electronic device or electrical substance, right? So this is nothing but we are using insulations. Okay, insulating process. Now we'll understand what is the difference between conductor and an insulator. So basically the substances which allow passage of electric charges through it easily is called a conductor. So basically a substance which allows electric charges to move through it easily are called as conductors. A conductor offers very low resistance to the flow of current. Always remember, if the passage of electricity has to be great, then naturally the resistance has to be low. If the resistance is high, then definitely the conductivity is less. All right, understood. Okay, for example, conductors examples are copper, silver, aluminum, etc. So in the given figure, which is given in the bottom, we are even demonstrating 5 electrical conductors such as silver, gold, copper, steel, and seawater. Why seawater? Because it contains lots of what? Ions, right? Then commonly, basically all metals come under this category because all metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Talking about insulators, a substance that has infinitely high resistance. Again, I'm telling you, there is greater resistance, then there is lesser passage of electricity. If the electricity has to pass through in a greater rate, then definitely the resistance has to be less. Just for example, let's say let's say you're sitting in front of a book which you want to finish. Okay, so you are interested in reading that book. Okay, so when you are interested in reading that book, that interest is basically your conductor. So that interest is making you to go through that book completely. What happens if I place a video game or if I place any other distracting substance just next to you? So that is acting like a resistance. You cannot complete that entire book because something else is attracting you. That video game is attracting you. That's the reason why you are not able to complete this book now. So that video game is acting as like a resistor. So if there is higher resistance, then there is lower passage of current. If there is lower resistance, then there is higher passage of current. So always remember, conductors are always carrying lower resistance. Insulators are always carrying infinitely higher resistances. So examples of insulators are rubber, glass, plastic, ebonite, etc. Also, we have given some other examples such as rubber, glass, oil, diamond, dry wood, etc. Any doubts in the slide, guys? Yeah, so Prahlad, I haven't checked your message. Salt, yes, correct. I believe you might have told this answer for seawater, right? Okay, so no doubts in the slide. Are you guys taking these things down? Please note down, please note down. All these things are important. And tomorrow in the evening, you'll have a test because tomorrow we'll be finishing off one part of physics. Okay, so whatever has been done, we will have a test in the evening. So tomorrow again, as usual, 6:30 in the morning, you'll have a class. Okay, and also 4:30 in the evening, you'll have a class. All right, moving on to the next slide. So yes, electric current is what we'll be studying in the slide. Okay. Yes. So electric current. So electric current is nothing but the flow of electric charges across a cross section of a conductor constitutes an electric current. It is defined as a flow of electric charge through any section of a conductor. So if the charge is passing from point A to point B or point C or point D within a rate of time, okay, so we are counting time, we are specifying some time, and within this time we are measuring the amount of charge that is passed. So if we are taking a ratio between the charge and the time, then we'll get current. So current is nothing but rate of flow of electric charge through any section of a cross section of a conductor. So naturally, why are we using conductor? Because conductor has something which will pass the or allow the charges to move through, right? So electric current. So electric current is equal to charge by time. So electric current, I am representing it with I, capital I. So electric current is represented with capital I, which is nothing but charge. I'm again using Q, time I'm using T. So I is equals to capital Q divided by T. Second point is very important. Electric current is a scalar quantity. Why is it a scalar quantity? Hey, can anyone tell me what is the difference between a scalar and a vector? I want someone to tell me. Don't text me. I want someone to tell me.
The scalar quantities are those
direction ఉండదు.
Scalar quantity.
which are expressed only by their magnitude or not by direction. But vectors are to be expressed by both magnitude and as well as direction.
Correct. So basically, scalars and vectors, they are differentiated with the direction as a main frame. So scalars are those which will only have magnitude, which will have only values, which will have a single unit, whereas there will not be any specified direction. Okay. So whereas when you're talking about vectors, they have both magnitude as well as direction. Okay, good. I know some of you will try to answer me. That's okay, good. Prahlad, you are typing something. I don't understand. Okay. Fine. It's okay. So then moving on, current electricity is a scalar quantity because it has magnitude. So you are deciding its direction. That's why it is not having a specified direction. That's the reason why it is a scalar quantity. Unit of electric current is ampere, capital A. So again, I'm telling you, capital A is the unit of electric current, but electric current is denoted with capital I. Unit is different. Symbolic representation of a physical quantity is different. Okay, so capital I is equals to Q by T. We already knew that Q is equals to N into E by N into E, right? We have seen this in charge slide, right? So now I'm substituting N into E instead of Q. What I'll get, I is equals to N into E by T. N into E by T. Understood? Next, so since we have studied ampere as a unit of electric current, so ampere is nothing but the SI unit of current. So if 1 coulomb, of charge flows through any cross section of a conductor in 1 second, then current through it is said to be 1 ampere. So this, to be very to make it very simple, what I'm trying to do here is, instead of Q, I'm substituting 1 coulomb. For Q, I can write 1 coulomb, right? Q is nothing but charge. Unit of charge is coulomb. Instead of time, I'm writing 1 second. So unit of time is second. So I is equals to Q by T. I can also be equal to C by S. C is nothing but coulomb. S is nothing but second. So if charge is equals to 1, time is equals to 1 second, then it is equal to 1 ampere. So if 1 coulomb of charge flows through any cross section of a conductor in 1 second, then current through it is said to be 1 ampere. Also, I've given some values down. Please take down these things. 1 ampere is equals to 1 coulomb per 1 second, or 1 ampere is equals to 1 C by 1 S, or 1 C S power minus 1. So this C is up, and S has to be great, bigger one, because when we write a denominator in the place of numerator, we take generally the negative power, right? So it can also be written as 1 C S power minus 1. Also take down 1 milliampere is equals to 10 power minus 3 amperes. 1 microampere is equals to 10 power minus 6 amperes. Let me know once you're done. Everybody's done? Okay, moving on. We'll check out the next slide. Okay. So in the next slide, we'll be studying something related to electric current, field, electrostatic potential, potential difference between 2 points, as well as 1 volt potential difference. I think it's on the screen, right? Yeah. Okay. So let us understand what do you mean by an electric circuit. When exactly we call something as a circuit? When something is perfectly in a schematical order, right? So when you're connecting everything in an order and you're making sure that the appliance is actually receiving charge or electricity and it is working. Let's say, for example, all of a sudden your mobile phone charging has got completely drained off. What exactly you do? You'll connect a charger. First, you'll go and connect it to the switchboard, and then you will connect the charger pin, the USB pin to your mobile phone. So that this charging device acts as a conductor, and it will grab the electricity which is present in the mains, and it will pass it. It will provide electricity to the mobile phone, and it charges, or it accepts the electricity and stores in it. Again, your battery will be full again, right? Once again, when you remote, you use the mobile phone or any device like that, depending upon the charge that is available, right? So this is nothing but the entire process, the entire thing, whatever we have done just now. We have connected it to the switchboard, to the mobile phone. This entire thing, if you are representing in the form of a diagram or on the paper, it is nothing but a electric circuit. The closed path along which electric current flows is called as a electric circuit. Electric field is basically nothing but a region around a charged body within which its influence can be experienced naturally. Whenever, for example, you are placed, if there is a heavy magnetic field, if you are placing a metal in the magnetic field, what happens? It experiences magnetism. Similarly, if you are placing a substance in the electric field, it also experiences electricity. So the area in which electricity can be experienced or felt is nothing but electric field. Okay, moving on. One more important topic, electrostatic potential, or simply potential. Potential is nothing but electrostatic potential at any point in an electric field is defined as the amount of work done in bringing a unit positive charge from infinite to that point. You do not know where exactly the source. You're grabbing it and you're bringing it to that particular point. This is nothing but a potential. So its unit is volt. Positive charges move from higher to lower potential regions, whereas electrons being negatively charged, they move from lower to higher potential regions. Minus minus is plus, plus minus is minus. So positive charges, they move from higher to lower potential. Electrons, they move from lower to higher potential. So this you'll observe in the electrical circuit. Once we are discussing the circuits in the further classes, I'll explain you this again. No need to worry. Okay, for now, please concentrate on the definition of electrostatic potential. Electrostatic potential at any point is nothing but the amount of work done in carrying a unit positive charge from infinite to that particular point. Is this clear, guys? Any doubt in potential? I think you'll not have, because I've explained you so many times electrostatic potential, but again, unfortunately, if you are still having, no problem in explaining. Okay, no doubts. All right. Potential difference between 2 points. Now we are considering, or we are imagining, two different points. So between this 2 points, there is a conductor which is carrying electricity. Now naturally, both of these points have got different potentials, different charges present in that particular area, different volt that is present in that particular point. The potential difference between 2 points in an electric field is the amount of work done in bringing a unit positive charge from one point to other. So everything is same. Potential difference and potential, all complete definition is same, but potential is something which you are bringing from the infinity to that point, whereas potential difference is something where you are changing the or bringing the unit positive charge from one point to the other point. Here you know the specified location of the points. Here you are very very much aware of the 2 points between which the charge is flowing, but in the potential you are not very certain. Understood? That's the major difference here. Okay, so potential difference is equals to work done by charge, work done by charge. So which can also be written in the symbolic form, V is equals to W by Q, whereas V is representing potential, W is representing work done, Q is representing charge. Okay, all right. 1 volt potential difference. The potential difference between 2 points in an electric field is said to be 1 volt if 1 joule of work has to be done in bringing up positive charge of 1 coulomb from one point to another. So what we are doing here is same like ampere definition. We are substituting the values or the units in the place of the symbolic physical quantities. So instead of W, I'm substituting 1 joule. Instead of Q, I'm substituting 1 coulomb. There we are getting volt. Okay, 1 volt is equals to 1 joule per 1 coulomb, which is nothing but 1 V is equals to 1 J by 1 C. Okay, so basically both potential and potential difference are scalar quantities. Why they are scalar? Naturally, even they do not have direction. They only have a magnitude in the form of volt. All right. Down in the bottom, there is a formula VA minus VB is equals to W by Q. VA minus VB. A is a point, B is a point, V is potential. Potential at A minus potential at B is nothing but potential difference between A and B. So potential difference between A and B is written as VA minus VB. Potential at point A minus potential at point B is written as W by Q, because I can substitute V with VA minus VB, right? Everything is understood in the slide. Any doubts? Any doubts? Okay. Okay, nobody's having doubt. We are moving on to the next slide. Oh, I like this slide. Okay. All right. So this is, I felt, this slide is interesting because when I was preparing slides, out of all the slides, I like the slide. Okay, moving on to the same, topic again. Let us understand some terminologies called as galvanometer, ammeter, voltmeter. So we'll understand what is a galvanometer. So galvanometer is basically a device which is used to detect current in an electric circuit. I believe everybody might have seen this, but you were exactly not knowing that this will be called as galvanometer. This is called as device is called as ammeter. Everybody might have seen all these devices. Maybe in the early 2005, 2006, because nowadays everybody uh, uh, is having a repairing television, customer service guys coming to your house, repairing your televisions and all. But earlier we had, once again, just some. Right. Yeah. Sorry. Uh, so yes, I was discussing about galvanometer, right? So yeah, I was telling you that earlier in 2005, 2006, for example, if the television is getting damaged or something happened to our the television, we used to run to the TV mechanic guy who used to sit in a store, and that person used to use these instruments and check whether the device is working or not. I have personally seen it. I don't know about you guys, but again, I haven't seen in my engineering or in my pharmacy, areas. I've seen this before my 10th standard. That's the reason why I'm very confident that you might have also seen these things. Yes, Prahlad, multimeter is something which has all these things. Good. I haven't mentioned that. I was actually, I thought to ask that question. Good, very good. Okay, so galvanometer is something, it's a device which is used to detect current in an electric circuit. So if someone asks you, how do you measure current? How do you detect current in an electric circuit? You just tell him, go get a galvanometer. I'll show you how to do it. Because these are the devices. Trust me, guys, physics, you'll only learn, your experience will be great if you are actually working out in a practical way. So if you guys are moving on to intermediate first year or second year, sit in the lab. Don't go behind your friends. They'll take you. Arey mama, aim just some lab lo. Don't do all these things. Go sit, do the experiments. They'll be awesome. These are these are has to be experienced in the inner life, because they give you at most knowledge which you can't get it in the theoretical aspect. Okay. Oh, is it? Prahlad, you're having multimeter. Fantastic. Okay. So ammeter. Ammeter is nothing but it is a device which is used to measure current in a circuit. It is all connected in series circuit. Now you should wonder what is the difference between galvanometer and ammeter. Can someone tell me what is the difference between galvanometer and an ammeter?
ना
Yeah.
మన galvanometer low weak currents detect చేస్తుంది ammeter strong currents detect చేస్తుంది.
Yes. So basically, one is used to measure the highest, normal currents. One is used to measure the weak currents. Okay. So that's the major difference between galvanometer and ammeter. Moving on to the voltmeter. But again, once before I discuss voltmeter, very important point. Go back to your notes if you guys are writing. If you guys are taking down the running notes, go back to your potential notes. Potential, where exactly you have written potential. Right there, potential and potential difference are very important in understanding the direction of flow of current. Please write this point. I think I forgot to mention in the slide. Please write down in the potential slide, or potential part, wherever exactly you have written that. You should write potential or potential difference will let us know the direction of flow of current. Will let us know the direction of flow of current. Because see, as I told you, it moves from higher potential to lower potential. So if point A is at higher potential, if point B is at lower potential, then what happens? It moves from point A to point B. You know the two potentials, then you can easily estimate the direction of flow of current, right? So that's the importance of voltmeter. So if someone asks you write the significance of voltage or write the significance of potential, you simply write it gives us the information about the direction of flow of current. Similarly, voltmeter is nothing but it is a device to measure potential difference. It is always connected in parallel to the components across which the potential difference is to be measured. It is used to understand what is the direction of flow of current inside the electrical circuit. And the diagram itself, I think this you might have seen definitely. The digital one. I think when I was a kid, I was very more curious. So I used to wait for the opportunity when that person will move inside, so that I can touch these, I can put up these onto those amplifiers, and I wanted to check the reading. I was more curious, when I was a kid, voltmeter specifically. All right, moving on. Any doubts in the slide, boys, girls? Okay. let us move on to the next slide. We'll understand. Okay, in the next slide. So far we have discussed about the basic components of a current electricity chapter, and now we are going to understand what is Ohm's law. So can someone define law? Yes. What is Ohm's law? No. What happened, guys? No Ohm's law. Define. It's been done in the previous classes. I think you all should be able to define it. Boys.
Ohm's law states that current flowing in a conductor is directly proportional.
Ohm's law states that
current flowing in a conductor is directly proportional to the potential difference across its provided if temperature is constant.
Correct. So at constant temperature, if the temperature is maintained at constant, that means there is no change in the temperature. Then what is happening? The current that is flowing inside the conductor or the electrical circuit is always directly proportional to the potential difference. Okay, the potential difference across the two ends. Okay, in an electrical circuit is always directly proportional to the current flowing through it. So V is directly proportional to I. Please take down this, very important. V directly proportional to I. V is equals to IR. Now here we are bringing a special guest here. R is a special appearance, special guest, right? How come all of a sudden R has come? Because whenever we are removing proportionality constants, whenever we are making proportional sign to an equal to sign, we are supposed to get a proportionality constant, right? We are multiplying R with I so that we are equating the entire IR into is equals to V. Okay, V is equals to IR. Standard form of Ohm's law. Someone asks you what is Ohm's law? If that person whoever is asking you, if he or she is of standard 9, 10, 11, 12, you can just say the current is directly proportional to potential difference. But if someone an engineer asks you, or a elder person asks you what is Ohm's law, just tell them V is equals to IR, because it is automatically understood. So depending upon the person who is asking you the question, your answer should be framed. If you are framing the answers depending upon the person who is asking you, then that means you are knowledgeable. All right, so there is a limitation here in Ohm's law. What is the limitation? So since I have mentioned that temperature has to be maintained constant, if temperature is not maintained constant, then Ohm's law will be disobeyed. Ohm's law will not be obeyed. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? Okay, so now open your notes. In the notes, make two columns. Okay, so in the first column, write ohmic conductors. In the second, you write non-ohmic conductors. Non-ohmic conductors. We'll write it for resistors. Conductors is pretty much simple. Okay, take up ohmic resistors and non-ohmic resistors. So we are actually going to write some differences, basic differences between ohmic resistors and non-ohmic resistors. Please write this down. Ohmic resistors, non-ohmic resistors. Under ohmic resistors, write down the first point. Under ohmic resistors, write down the first point. They obey Ohm's law. They obey Ohm's law. They obey Ohm's law. Under non-ohmic resistor, they does not obey Ohm's law. They does not obey Ohm's law. They does not obey Ohm's law. Write down the examples under ohmic resistors. Examples under ohmic resistors. All metallic conductors. All metallic conductors such as silver, iron, copper, etc. Such as silver, iron, copper, etc. Under non-ohmic resistors, the examples are junction diode, junction diode, junction diode, junction diode, junction diode. You can write LED, junction L. What is the full form of LED, guys?
Light emitting diode.
Emitting diode.
Voice. Good. Light emitting or emission diode. Okay, under non-ohmic resistors, junction diode, light emitting diode or LED, transistor, etc. Transistor. Yeah, transistor. Siddharth, good. Who is that? If there is disturbance around you, please switch off your mics. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. Once you guys are done with that copying thing, we'll move on to the next slide.
Hello.
Tushant, switch off your mic. Turn off your mic. Okay, so let a concept called before in Ohm's law we have resistance. Now we have seen I, or I mean we have seen V is equals to IR. Now what was R? R nothing and no, exactly is this resistance. Okay, so resistance, can someone tell me what is resistance?
Obstruction offered to the flow of current.
Can someone tell me what is resistance?
No, obstruction offered to the flow of current.
Correct. Obstruction offered to the flow of current. So basically, resistance of a conductor. Okay. So basically, resistance is nothing but a property of a conductor by virtue of which it opposes the flow of current through it. That means, so this is nothing but a property of a, it is a property of a conductor which is blocking the passage of current. So initially, when we have studied about conductors, we understood that conductors are some substances where they allow the passage of, if it has got a property of resistance, then they will, but if resistance, they will block the passage of current, not completely, but yes, partially. So it is equal to the ratio of it and the current flowing through it. Since we have already studied V is equals to IR, when we are a subject, then R is equals to V by I. So resistance is nothing but potential difference divided by current. Potential difference divided by current. Okay, moving on. Unit of resistance. What is the unit of resistance? Ohm. OHM. Ohm is unit of resistance. 1 ohm is equals to 1 volt
One.
divided by 1 ampere, because it is V by I. V is volt, I is ampere. So 1 ohm is equals to 1 V by 1 A. 1 V by 1 A. All right. Just a moment, guys. Just a moment. Someone is asking me a question. Vaishnavi, can you hear my voice clearly? Is my voice clear, guys?
మధ్యలో పోతుందన్న.
Okay. All right. I clear now. Okay. So let us understand what are the factors on which resistance of a conductor depends. Okay. So factors on which resistance of a conductor depends. So directly on its length. So resistance is directly dependent on its length. That means resistance is directly proportional to length. Please turn off your mic. Is this clear? Who is that? Tushant, turn off your mic. All right. So basically, resistance is directly proportional to its length. R directly proportional to L. Second factor, resistance is inversely proportional to the area of cross section. That is R inversely proportional to 1 by A. On the nature of the material of the conductor also resistance depends. So regarding this, we have a separate slide regarding the third factor. Now we'll only check the first two factors. So if we combine the first and second factor, R directly proportional to L by A. R is equals to rho L by A. So now this rho is nothing but the proportionality constant. It is also called as resistivity of the conductor. It is also called as resistivity or specific resistance. So specific resistance or resistivity, one and the same thing. So it's a constant value. So in order to remove the proportionality sign, we have brought up specific resistance, that is rho. It is basically spelled as rho. Okay, so R is equals to rho L by A. Right. Next, resistance. is done. Then resistivity. Resistivity is defined as the resistance offered by a cube of a material of side 1 meter when current flows perpendicular to its opposite faces. Forget about the definition. Concentrate on the formula now. Now we already knew that R is equals to rho L by A. Now if we are making rho as a subject, what will happen? A will become a numerator and will be a product with R, right? So R A divided by L, because L was on the numerator. If we are setting it the other side, it will go as a denominator. So rho is equals to RA by L. Resistivity is equals to RA by L. So regarding this, there is one more slide. Don't worry. Next, equivalent resistance. If a single resistance can replace the combination of resistances in such a manner that the current in the circuit remains unchanged, then that single resistance is called as the equivalent resistance. When exactly we call something some substance as equivalent? If you are removing that, if you are replacing that with the other, but the overall quantity is not changing, so then that is called as equivalent resistance. Moving on to the next slide. Please copy the entire thing. Let me know once you're done. So basically from now onwards, I'll be posting the entire notes in the Blogspot website that we have. I think everybody might have visited that website. We are separately having a blogspot .com website where we have notes regarding, I think I've posted notes regarding organic chemistry as well as World War I and all, right? So on the same website I'll be posting the entire notes. So from here on, if somebody is interested in taking down those notes or anything, any theoretical aspect, you'll have to go to that website. You'll have to find out what exactly you want, and then you can download it. It is free of course. We are not charging anything for that. Okay, is it done? Nitesh is done. How about others? Yes, so in the previous slide we have discussed something related to specific resistance. R is proportional to L by A. To remove the proportionality, we have introduced rho, right? Rho is nothing but the specific resistance or resistivity. So we know that area is equals to pi r square. Why? We are using wires, right? So through these wires only the electricity is passing, right? So area is taken as pi r square, right? Cylinder or the circular shape. Basically R is equals to rho L by pi r square. So instead of A, I am placing pi r square. Okay, so the formula has become now R is equals to rho L by pi r square. Now these kind of formulas are important when a question is asked to find out resistance or resistivity when radius is given. Suddenly the person examiner asks you by giving length and radius. Now you'll get amazed. Okay, length is fine, but how am I supposed to deal it with radius? Do not worry. Pi value we already know, 3.14 or 22 by 7. R value is given. Substitute in the formula. Definitely rho r, R value will be given. So one of them will not be given, and that's what you're supposed to find out. So R is equals to rho L by pi r square is equals to rho L by A, one and the same thing. Okay, so rho is nothing but the specific resistance. It is also called as resistivity. Rho is equals to R A by L is equals to rho pi r, R pi r square by L. I have changed the subject here. I have changed the subject. Initially it was R, now I have made it to rho. The unit of resistivity is nothing but ohm meter. Ohm meter. Now if I bifurcate this, now I am considering the formula rho is equals to RA by L. RA by L. Unit of R is nothing but ohm. The value that I can put up in the unit that I can put up for area is meter square. Ohm meter square divided by, for length it is meter. Ohm meter square by meter. Meter square gets cancelled. So that's how we get ohm meter. Similarly, when I'm talking about conductivity, just like resistivity, we have another constant called as conductivity constant. Conductivity is denoted with sigma. So the sign, so the inverted P, uh, it's not exactly inverted P, but again, it is called as sigma. Okay, sigma is equals to 1 by rho. So conductivity is always inversely proportional to the resistivity or specific resistance. Sigma is equals to 1 by rho, which is equals to 1 by Ra. It is not 1 by Ra, it is L by Ra. Okay. Unit here is exactly the opposite of specific resistance. Specific resistance had a unit of ohm meter. Now this will have ohm inverse, meter inverse, or simply you can write it as 1 by ohm meter. If you are writing ohm meter in the numerator, you'll have to mention ohm inverse, meter inverse. Understood? Okay, just a minute. Move on to the next slide. All right. Now, since we have discussed about resistance, since we have discussed about conductors and all, so we'll have to select the material that is required in order to prepare a wire. Now, we have discussed the third factor on which the resistance depends, right? So here is the slide for you. Choice of material of a wire. So there is a table that is given. Make sure that you're writing this. Please complete the entire table. complete it faster. All right, there is a small update, guys. You will have your second session of today's class at 7 o'clock. From 7 to 8 or 8:30, you'll have second session. It will definitely not get postponed. Do not worry. Is it done, guys? Okay. Should I move the slide? Okay. Moving on to the last slide for today. I mean, for today in the sense, in terms of physics. We have maths class from 7 to 8. Don't worry. All right. Why is this slide like this? Okay. So basically, what do you mean by superconductor? Before this, I would like to explain the previous slide. I think I haven't explained you this. All right. So we are selecting substances to make wires for different purposes. Now, for the first purpose was wires for electrical connections and power transmissions, which we generally observe outside carrying electricity to our houses as for different purposes, just like your cable wires or power transmission wires, electrical connections and all. So the main specification is the material should contain least resistance. Why does it why it should contain least resistance is because if it contains least resistance, then only it can transmit, then only it can conduct greater amount of current. So that is the specification, and it is best made using copper or aluminum. So wires for electrical connections and power transmissions are made using copper or aluminum because they have least resistance. They can conduct greater amount of current without any blockade. All right. Next, resistance wires. Now you are building resistance wires. Now you do not want to pass current, or now you do not want to allow the current to pass through it. These resistance wires are called as standard resistors. Now it will be opposite to the first case. Now they will contain high resistance. Now high resistance means lower passage, right? So basically they are made using alloys such as manganese, Constantan, etc. I will ask you these questions. So these questions will be repeated in your tomorrow's exam, tomorrow's objective test. Please make a note of these things if you haven't made a clear note. Alloys such as manganese, Constantan, very important. A fuse wire is made up of alloy of lead and tin. Why is it made up of lead, alloy of lead and tin is because it provides low melting point. A fuse wire should always have a lower melting point. Why it should have a lower melting point? Can someone tell me?
ఒకవేళ పవర్ ఎక్కువ అయితే ఆటోమేటిక్ గా మెల్ట్ అయిపోతుంది.
Okay, if the circuit is an appliance is connected in the circuit, then if there is any high voltage or if there is any unguided or abnormal passage of current, so then what happens? The entire appliance gets damaged. For this purpose, to avoid such damage, we are using fuse wires, or MCBs, miniature circuit breakers. All these things are we are using. Basically, again, we learn this in the household circuits and all. That is your next section. Okay, so they should always offer low melting point. Upon passage of greater current, greater energy, it should start melting. Once it melts, it will break the circuit. It will not allow the current to pass through because the circuit is broken. If the circuit breaks, current will not pass through. If the current is not passing, then the current will never reach the appliance. If the current is not reaching the appliance is safe. You are protecting the appliance, right? I always give you an example. I think I've told you this. All of a sudden you get a 70,000-80,000 mobile phone. Nowadays you get it iPhone XS, iPhone, so many things, right? So you get it, and you all of a sudden you connect it to a switchboard. Unfortunately, your household electrical work is not done properly, and there is a huge current that is passed. Unfortunately, it passed into your iPhone. Gone. 70,000-80,000 is gone all of a sudden. To prevent this, we are using fuse. To prevent this, we are using MCBs. So these are basically fuse. So fuse wire should always have low melting point. They will ask you, it's an important question, why is the fuse wire always made of low melting points? The material that is used to make a fuse wire always has a low melting point. Give reason. So these kind of questions you'll get it in your exam, specifically ICSE final examination. Filament of an electric bulb. Filament of an electric bulb should again follow the reverse case with the earlier one. It should have high melting point. If you are passing higher voltage, then the bulb should not break, but instead the bulb should conduct electricity, whereas the fuse wire should break. That's why fuse wire is having lower melting point. Filament of an electric bulb is having higher melting point. Example is tungsten. Heating elements in appliances such as heater, toaster, oven, etc. So all these contain high specific resistance material called as nichrome. Nichrome is basically having high specific resistance or high resistivity. That's the reason why it is used in the heating elements in appliances such as heater, toaster, oven, etc. Whatever you use in the kitchen or household where you use electricity and convert it to heat. Done. We'll finish this first session of today with the last slide that we have. Superconductors. Superconductors are basically the substances of zero resistance at a very low temperature. So they offer zero resistance, absolutely zero resistance, no resistance at all, complete passage. Electricity is just passed through completely because there is no resistance. Now this will only exist in a very, very, very low temperature, right? The examples of superconductors are given on the other side of the slide. I think that is not clear. I think it is much brighter, right? I should decrease the brightness. Okay, okay. So examples are mercury, lead, niobium. So just adjacent to that, I have even given you the temperature. These are very important. You should not simply write mercury, lead, niobium. You're not going to get marks. So if, for example, someone asked you a question called define superconductors with an examples. So if you write a substance which provide zero resistance at a very low temperature, examples mercury, lead, niobium. If I was the invigilator, I'll only give you 1 mark out of 2. Because here it is very important for you to write the temperature as well along with the material. So mercury, Mercury acts as a superconductor. Mercury provides superconducting properties under or below 4.2 Kelvin. Below 7.25 Kelvin, lead. Below 9.2 Kelvin, niobium. So mercury below 4.2 Kelvin, lead below 7.25 Kelvin, niobium below 9.2 Kelvin. All right, I hope you have liked the entire presentation. It took a lot of time, but again, that doesn't matter for me if everything is going straight away into your brain, because I can even do this without all this hangama. I can simply write some statements. I can simply write the formulas directly without showing you any pictorial representation. Of course, everything is available in Google. Everything is available in your website or online. But it is very important to match up things. Right, that takes time. Right. Certain things you'll have to write it on your own. Certain things you'll have to do everything on your own. I am ready to take in so how much of time that is required. But again, things should pass straight away into your mind. All right. Any doubts in today's class? I mean, today's session. So your next session will be at 7 o'clock. 7. Your next session will be at 7 o'clock. Your next session, I doubt that I'm going to take. I think there will be some other sir who will be taking the next session. Okay, it's okay, no problem. The same thing that we have discussed in the quadratic equations, the same thing will be discussed. The next steps and all. I'm not sure, and because I'll have to discuss again. Either I'll take or he'll take. Whoever is taking, teaching will be provided 100%. Any doubts in the further? I mean, in the current class, any doubts? Oh, there are lots of messages. 18 messages. Oh. Okay, I haven't checked your messages, man.